Hi, Bhargav. Good to have you on today. So today we will discuss the recent and possibly still ongoing clashes between Afghanistan and Pakistan, which has led to multiple casualties, airstrikes, and also artillery firing. So a bit of context on this. This is not the first time these clashes have occurred. This has occurred multiple times since the Taliban took over Afghanistan on August 15, 2021. Um, but it does surprise a lot of people because people think that the Pakistani government and the Afghan government, the Afghan Taliban, go hand in hand. So Bhargav, could you shed a bit of light on the dynamics behind the clashes and maybe a bit on the geopolitics at the moment that's going on?
Certainly. So, to this, firstly, thank you very much for inviting me on this section. This is very much an analyst dream. Whoever tries to focus on this part of the world. Now, the relationship between Taliban government and Pakistani government is non-linear, and that doesn't even begin to describe the entire situation. Now, the chief of ISI, the then chief of ISI, Faiz Hamid, did do a victory lap when Taliban took over in 2021, landing in Kabul as soon as the Kabul fell. However, the situation right now is fairly contradictory to what it was back in 2021. Across Pakistan, people were celebrating the end of American rule in the neighborhood. They thought Pakistan has played an active role in liberating Afghanistan from the colonial rule of the Americans. However, the situation now is completely different. Pakistani government doesn't trust the Afghan regime or the Taliban regime in Kabul, as it suspects, or rather asserts, that the Taliban in Afghanistan is supporting Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan within their territory, especially in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Now, the most important point here is that Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, which is a proxy of the Pakistani regime in Islamabad, championed their cause, Taliban's cause, hosted them in Quetta for decades, and now the same chickens have come home to roost. TTP has launched numerous attacks across Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and other provinces as well, and the casualties last year were more than 500, and that's very high. It's probably the highest in last decade, and this has hurt the Pakistani security establishment across the board. And this is precisely why they're taking a punitive action to ensure that the facilitators of such attacks in sitting in Kabul, as they claim, are taught a lesson. To what extent it is true that TCP is actively supported by Taliban is fairly an open secret. They are ideological brethren. They supported each other against American rule in Afghanistan, and they both were directly or indirectly supported or propped up by ISI, uh, doing a double game with Americans as well as the Taliban. Now, the intricate dance with the devil has borne fruit in terms of mass casualties.
Right. Thanks a lot for that, Bhargav. Yeah, it's definitely interesting how the Pakistani government or the military establishment uses these proxies, but then doesn't expect blowback to happen, as is the case with the Tehrik-e-Labbaik Pakistan, for example. But we'll have a conversation about that later. Um, so just in terms of geopolitics, I think one thing that was really interesting at this point, if you could tell us of the significance of this, was just before these clashes occurred or during these clashes, the Afghan foreign minister vi visited in visited India with a high level delegation, and they actually visited some sites which are considered to be the birthplace of the ideology underlying the Taliban. So that was quite significant in that sense. And India welcomed them with open arms. Do you see this as a rebuke to Pakistan and India trying to, balance Afghanistan on the other side?
Yes, this is primarily a symbolic gesture to send a message to Pakistan that your enemy is our friend, and that's Afghan Taliban. Now, at the same time, it is quite interesting that India would take such a step because there is no ideological alignment between the two, that is Taliban regime and Delhi. And Delhi doesn't recognize Taliban in Afghanistan. And Delhi has actively supported and has even armed the Ashraf Ghani government when they were being kicked out by the Afghan Taliban. So for them to now welcome Muttaqi, their foreign minister, with an open arms is quite interesting. It it could also be a blunder in terms of their public diplomacy, because Taliban doesn't really have a rosy, let's say, reputation, especially given their track record of mistreating their own civilians, whether in the name of vengeance or in terms of their ludicrous, uh, radical interpretation of Islam and treatment of women. Now, as far as his visit to the Deoband is concerned, the so-called ideological birthplace of Taliban, again, it was a symbolic gesture saying that, okay, you are here, you might as well visit the most important site for your ideology. But this is pure real politic as I would see it. I do not see this bearing any fruits for the government in Delhi for that matter. So the realpolitik calculus is quite non-linear. Now today they may actually openly welcome them with open arms, but if something goes wrong, especially with the mass weapons left behind by the Americans, if they end up in Kashmiri hands, the same regime is going to point fingers at Taliban and say you're facilitating the infiltrators or the separatists in Kashmir. So it'll be interesting to see how this will evolve over a period of time. Uh,
Right.
as
I
far as
think,
Pakistan is concerned, they have
yeah,
voiced their disapproval quite openly.
yep. And I think some American-made weapons have been found in the hands of Kashmiri militants that have been allegedly trained by Pakistan in Indian administered Kashmir, at
Yeah,
least.
yes, we have seen that happen, and let's face the reality. The so-called Duran line or the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan is fairly open, irrespective of all the tensions
Yeah.
and clashes going on. And the borders between Pakistan and Kashmir is equally open, and irrespective of what Delhi claims, that border is untenable. It is very difficult to manage, and with such open borders, it's very easy for high-tech weapons, American weapons, to cross borders. So it would be no surprise to see such weaponry in Kashmiri hands.
Right. So lastly, just going over onto the outlook, I do expect that the clashes will subside soon. But the underlying tensions will not. And that creates a situation where more such situations can flare up. And depending on the real politics of the day, it could go either way. Would you agree or disagree?
Yes, to a greater extent, I do agree, especially with the checkered past between the Pakistani security establishment and Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. They have had numerous ceasefires. It all depends on the temperature or the mood of the leadership within TTP as well as the security establishment. And these ceasefires have not withstood test of time. They have been broken in matter of months. So you are likely to see a roller coaster of repeated ceasefires within Pakistan. The tensions between Afghan Taliban and the government in Islamabad, they're likely to remain high, at least in the short term. I would agree with that. But the key element here is that the governments, especially those which are formed based on the appeal, the religious appeal, especially what we saw with Imran Khan, where he appealed to the religious right, as well as promising a new Pakistan. So when politicians take advantage of such the religious elements, they're likely to see an uncontrolled uh, activities by proxies such as Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. So
Right.
they have a mind of their own. They do not really comply with the security calculus of civilian-led governments such as Imran Khan or the current hybrid government between Shahbaz Sharif and the Pakistani military. Now it's pretty much official. Khwaja Asif has actually attested to the hybrid nature of the government now. So that's something to watch out for, and it's best that the Indian government learns from it, keep an arm's length from any such religious elements because they can explode on anybody's face for that matter. And let's face it, in reality, India is a peripheral actor here. Taliban doesn't require Indian weapons. Taliban doesn't require Indian support. It's purely real politics, symbolic gestures, which is going around.
Right. That's very interesting. I don't think India has been taking the lesson well of trying to balance or manage religious extremist actors well,
Yes.
given the past 10 years. But thanks a lot, Bhargav. This was very insightful and appreciate your time as always. See you soon on the next chat. And thanks to everyone listening in.
Thank you, Uday. I appreciate you inviting me on this. Thank you.